Okay. How's this gonna work?
So you're not going to see me after a little while.
Okay.
But you'll start to see the panelists coming in.
Okay.
So if you hold on.
And then the questions will just come up on my screen and I'll just be like, hey, let me turn off. You can see the reflection. Is it my TV that you can see or is it my computer?
I guess it's your computer. I'm not sure.
Turn off the television. I mean, I wasn't watching it. There. Let's see. If it's still on there, then it's just the computer. Yeah, it's the computer. Okay.
So right now
it says Chuck Collins to Kenneth Witherspoon. Hi, Spoon. Is Chuck on?
No, Chuck is me.
Okay. Oh, I was like, how did that happen? Okay.
I know. I'm going to rename it right now so that way. So we can do it a couple ways. I can have Slido and share my screen so that you can see the questions.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes if I share my screen, it'll take up part of the screen of the panelist. I can also just feed you the questions.
Yeah, that works.
In the chat.
Yeah, feed me the questions in the chat.
Okay. And I'm going to the questions. So I'm actually going to put the first question that's at the top in there right now. So you have a starting point.
Okay.
And then usually it takes a little while for folks to go through everybody and have them answer. So can you see that?
Yep. I put some questions on there.
So once we get a couple more attendees, right as soon as we hit the top of the hour, we got some, I don't know if you saw the email with the questions back from the UT folks, from the Dell folks. Mm-hmm. So I picked 3 of them to put in a poll in Zoom, and I'm going to ask folks, you know, it's a get to know our audience better, and it's what generation, what's your working situation?
Hi.
Hello. Hello. And what's the third question?
No. It's okay. It's life. It's Zoom. Everybody will be fine.
If you feel any better, my dog is right there.
Oh, good. Hello, doggy. Well, they get excited when they first hear someone, and then they calm down usually after a minute. So
don't worry.
Those 10 minutes at the start.
Like, and I've got my dogs too, and Lord knows, you know, I did the same thing you did. I tried. I have the door closed. We'll see how that goes.
Well, I know that if I shut the door, they will just bark and be like, "Where's mommy?"
Yeah. Hey, Carlos. Hi.
I'm gonna change my name. I'm gonna change my name here.
Are you guys all set up good, or?
I think so. You're just gonna want to change your name.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. Kelly was like, "Is Chuck on?" I was like, "No, that's me." So. Hi, Carlos. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Thank you.
We're just getting everything started.
Alrighty, sounds good.
Yeah, so I think, Kelly, we tried before sharing, like Chuck would share his screen with the Slido questions, but then if folks are on smaller devices like a phone or an iPad, they can't see anything but the questions.
Okay.
So I'll just feed you the questions in the chats.
Okay. That's perfect. Oh, are you talking to Carlos Spoon? Because Carlos.
Yeah.
On your Zoom, it's showing your email address.
Okay.
That might, Marissa, can you change it, or?
Let me see.
Because that just might be because of the
yeah,
invites.
I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go to the 3 dots and the corner of your own video screen, and then
There we
wait,
go.
that's yours.
Yep, there you go. And see,
Your
that's
name is-
better.
Yeah.
You don't want, just in case, we don't want your personal information to go out to just,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But Marissa fixed it, so it has just your name. And then Nusa, do you have yours the way you want it?
Is
Okay.
it showing up as my name?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is.
Okay, come here, baby. You guys want to be on Zoom? Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, we're all on Zoom. Oh, boy. Do you want to get up here? Be nice and good for
So did your friend Marissa say they could do it ultimately,
I
or?
haven't heard from him, so I don't know. So I'm glad that we went ahead and did what we did. So
Yeah.
that was what I was concerned about. All right. I'm going to turn my camera off for a little while I work on Slido, but I'm here.
So Marissa is part of the Why Can't We Be Friends group, and then Al, who's on as well. He's the administrator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's the one who's been sending you guys the links and all that stuff. So, but he's also,
Oh, right. Your name's not Chuck then.
No.
but he also
'Cause-
immigrated from Canada.
No way.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
I've always wanted to go to Canada.
yeah. I mean,
in the
it's
summer.
well, it's cold. It's cold right now, so you probably
Right.
So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's
What part of Canada did you come from?
like Ontario. Like,
Yeah, I'm
Not-
from Peterborough.
oh, okay. Do you know where Sioux, Ontario is?
Oh yeah, so like Northern Ontario?
Yeah. So,
Oh wow. It's
yeah.
like a whole another world up there.
Yeah, I know. It's like everybody thinks we don't have like heat or
How does
anything. so
everyone
it's
know
just like
where the Sioux is? That
Yeah.
amazes me. It's like a town of like
80.
80,000,
Yeah.
but everybody seems to know it who knows Canada.
Yeah. You always see somebody or meet somebody from there. So it's kind of funny. But no. Yeah, we haven't been able to go there because the border's been closed for so long.
Is it still closed?
Yeah.
Mm,
You can go, but like I think it's just a big hassle.
yeah.
And then
I can't. I'm waiting for my green card right now, so
oh yeah.
it doesn't really affect me, but still.
Yeah, and you can't leave, right? When you're waiting for your green card.
Yeah, no, I can't
Yeah.
leave.
So hey Marissa, did we ever leave? No, right? We were
No,
stuck-
remember, it's just been a while, but you couldn't. And I remember when he found out he wasn't going to be able to go back for a little while, he was like, "What do you mean? Why are they trying to keep me here?" Well, I mean, you can, but you have to fill out more paperwork to get special permission to
And
like
it
go
costs
and
an
come
extra
back.
chunk of money and like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have to pay another chunk of yeah. It's
Mhm.
It's just
tough. So
it's a pain.
I'm not in a rush to go back to winter anyhow, so.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Uh,
Yeah.
Kelly, is one of the panelists Eric?
Eric Walton, do y'all see me?
Yeah, he's asking in the chat, do y'all see me? And I don't see him.
Well, Artie. Well, it's Eric. Yes, that's him. It's EART, right? But he goes by ARTI. But yes, that's him. EAR, right?
Oh,
Are you
maybe
seeing
there.
the chat, like where it says, "Do you see
Yeah, I
me?"
see on the chat it says Eric Walton. Do you see me?
That's not him then.
We can't see any of the attendees. We can only see panelists.
Yeah. But Artie just said that he is signing in.
Oh, okay.
He said joining
That's
right now. I can hear y'all talking about me. Oh, it does say Eric Walton. That's so funny. So you're signed in as Eric Walton?
Well, you know what? I think Artie is on the wrong side. Yeah, on the, he's supposed to be, it's a different link. Let me just send it to him. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, because you guys sent us 2 different links, right? One for we
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
share it.
Analysts. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's two
Hey,
separate
Alex,
links.
Change.
can
He's
you grab that
texting me,
link?
so
I don't have it. He's got the attendee link, so that's why we can't see him.
he said, "Let me change the link." So
Okay.
Um,
I wouldn't. Oh, right, Kelly. You sent me the emails to everybody, so I
Mhm.
can. Let me see. It's gonna stop my video for a second.
Well, my dogs have calmed down. That's nice. Yeah. Are you gonna be good?
let's see. Hi.
Hello. Hi there.
How are you?
Doing just fine. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for coming. We are just waiting for some other folks that are signing in. And it looks like once Artie gets in, I think that's gonna be us, y'all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll get started. We're just waiting for him to get in. And we're fine. It's like right at 7 right now. So
Yeah.
this is why we do about 10 minutes early, so we can get everybody worked in by about 10 minutes after.
If this was gonna be in
Hi,
real
Lou.
life, where would this be so I can imagine it?
If this could be where?
If this was gonna be like in real life and not on Zoom, where would we be right now?
That's a good question. We might use our fellowship house.
Okay, cool.
Marissa, you're talking, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It could be, I know Chuck has lots of connections with different folks. So it could be at the San Gabriel Fellowship Sanctuary, or it could be at Southwestern Campus, Southwestern.
Mhm.
And so it would probably be one of those venues, or maybe at the library in one of the conference rooms.
Mhm.
All right, I'm visualizing it.
That would be
There'd
Georgetown.
be like some decaf coffee and squares.
Kelly, what was his email again?
Let me see. It is.
I have the list of emails. I just trying to make sure I resend it to the correct person.
All right. Let me. No. I'm trying to look in.
So real quick, as we're getting ready to start and getting our last panelist,
Oh.
I wanted to speak to the attendees and let you guys know that we're going to be launching a poll. And then we are asking you, after this, we'll probably be sending a survey. So if you could let us know in the chat if you'd be willing to get a survey from us so we can get some more feedback on what you like, what you don't like about the program. That would be super helpful for us. So I just wanted to make that announcement before I go off so Kelly can start. Okay, Kelly, it's all yours.
All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Why Can't We Be Friends? So tonight we are doing our session, and it's called Immigration Nation. And we have several amazing people who have so generously volunteered their time to come and hang out with us this evening and have kind of a laid back, open, candid conversation about what it means to be an immigrant in our country right now. And so we've got, I believe everyone here is from Central Texas, but I'm not positive. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off. I'm going to have everyone kind of introduce themselves, who they are, where they immigrated from, maybe a little short, introduction to us, and just, with the knowledge that there are, I think, 40 people that registered for this. So when we're talking to about roughly 40 folks. And they have submitted questions that I'm going to be reading after we do our brief introduction. And we're just going to kind of go from there. So I'm going to start with Carlos. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Carlos Hernandez. I am currently been a machinist for 14 years. I immigrated here as a child. I believe I was 4, about to be 5. Came in through the California Tijuana border and immigrated to San Jose, California. So I came undocumented, and then my dad was already he was already a green card holder, so he just did the paperwork so we could become resident, and eventually became an American citizen. But we immigrated from Guanajuato, Mexico. That's like the central part of the country.
Okay, great. And then Nusa, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm still waiting for my green card. I just applied about 4 months ago. And I'm from Canada. My parents are from Iraq, so they immigrated to Canada, and then now I'm immigrating to here. And my my I'm a musician, and my fake name is Winona Wild, and that's the route that I took to apply as an alien of extraordinary ability or whatever it's called. It was kind of weird time for me, but all that paperwork's in now, and tomorrow is my biometrics exam, so I thought it was funny timing that this happened tonight, and I thought I would volunteer. So it's nice to meet you all.
Great. And so your extraordinary ability is that you're a musician and you do.
Yeah, I'm a songwriter. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I haven't done anything that extraordinary, but I won a lot of song contests, and I managed to prove that it was like across a lot of different geographical areas and over a long period of time, and hopefully they agree.
Well, and you also, it's country kind of folk, right?
Yeah, folk country. You can look it up if you want. I write really kind of weird songs, but I guess that's why they've been standing out. They're just they sound kind of pretty and normal, and then when you listen a little closer, you're like, "What did she just say?" So that's kind of what I do.
Well, if during the chat at any time you want to plug your like Winona Wild information in, I'm sure people would be happy to check it out.
Sure, yeah, I'll put. Thank you.
Okay. And so I'm gonna say this last name and I'm going to not do it right. And then you're gonna tell me the right way to say it. Savari Sabahani. Did I do that right? You're like, "Oh."
It's Savara Sobhani. That's my married name. My maiden name is Savara Ziovidinova. About 6. I forgot the word for it. Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Savara, and I immigrated here from Uzbekistan. I grew up in a small town called Fergana, and I came to the US when I had just turned 17 as a foreign exchange student to spend a year here attending an American school. And then I went back for about 3 months and decided to come back here to attend college as an international student, and that had a lot of challenges. That path was incredibly difficult and financially draining, and I took a lot of detours, and eventually became a citizen through applying for a religious asylum, because the religion that I practiced was not, people that practiced my religion were highly persecuted in my country of origin. So I was able to immigrate here and become a citizen through that avenue. And thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And then last but not least. Artie. That's what you told me to call you, but you can tell us what you like to be called. No.
Y- Yes, you can just call me Artie. Everyone calls me that, my family and everyone. So that's what I've gotten used to. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Artie, and I was born and raised in Albania, and I moved to US when I just turned 19, actually a couple of weeks when I moved here. I came on a student visa at first. This is back in 2008, so I've been here for going for 13 years. Grew up in a small town back home. My family, so I lived there for about 14 years. My family moved to the capital city of Albania, which is relatively large, now close to 1 million people. I lived there for only 4 years, and after that, that's when I moved to United States and been in Central Texas for most of it.
Okay, great. Great. So we are going to go ahead and dive right into the first question. So the way this works is Marissa's kind of feeding me the questions that were submitted earlier by all of the people who have joined the conversation. And so I am just going to kind of read them, and then you guys can all answer the questions. If only a few of you want to answer them, that's fine too. If you don't feel comfortable answering a question, that's obviously also okay. And so, with that said, the first question we have coming up is, what did you find the most challenging about the immigration process?
You take turns, or are you gonna
Yeah,
tell
go
us?
for it. Yeah. I will do both. If nobody says anything, I'll start being like,
Can you
hey,
tell us what order to go in?
you you can, how about you go? How about you tell us what you felt like or feel like, because you're doing it now, right? Is the
Yeah.
most.
Okay. I had a lot of. Oh, I just realized my computer is not plugged in. Someone said they were having trouble hearing me, so I tried to move a little closer. Um, but I think you guys can hear me. My biggest challenge getting was actually the so I came in on a visa. I had 3 musician visas in a row, and those were petitioned by the Canadian Musicians Union. And actually, I applied for an extension and I did it wrong, and they they accused me of doing it on purpose, and the actual Canadian Musicians Union was extremely aggressive and unhelpful and very stressful. It was kind of terrifying actually, because I didn't want to be in I didn't want to have an immigration issue at all, but that's how it ended up happening. And I couldn't find any lawyers to help me. Nobody wanted to take my file on, but somehow I managed to just find the just like determination and lots of research, and I also have a law background, so that kind of helped. um, just a little, but that was the hardest part, is not knowing, not having any idea what was going on, and thinking that I did it right the first time, and then completely messing it up, and not having any support from back home. That was stressful.
Yeah, I think I have the same opinion almost as she did, because I could see I was still young. I was probably like between 8 and 10 years old, but I used to see my parents like stress out because the first attorney that they hired to do the process, it later turned on that he wasn't an attorney. He was just like a notary guy.
I've
So
heard of that happening, and
yeah, so there's a lot of different scams that go on. So my parents ended up losing a lot of money,
yeah.
and more than money, they lost all that time. So it took a while for us to get actually to go to immigration, get an actual appointment, and tell them, because you practically have to go and tell them your case, why you want to be here, and why you can't be in your country, and why'd you come here, why'd you break the law to come here. So like she was saying, if you mess up on one piece of paperwork, man, they treat you like if you're a liar. But like you fill out paperwork, like let's say you'll fill it out in 2000, and sometimes people don't get called till like 2010, 2005. It's like 5, 10 years later. So it's not like you're lying, but you need to make sure that you know what you wrote in that specific piece of paper, because one thing that's off and they'll complete you tell they'll either reject you, act like you're lying, or all this stuff. But and then most of the time you're not filling out the paperwork, the lawyer is the one actually filling out the paperwork. So if the lawyer misunderstands you and fills something out wrong, then you can completely lose your chance to ever even be a green card holder. And then that's how I feel like a lot of people end up getting deported, that they trust an attorney, and they fill in their paperwork, send it in, and it's not the correct attorney. So that's one of the biggest things that I saw my parents struggle a lot. And I used to always see them like, man, we don't know if we are actually going to be able to stay here. And I didn't want to go back to Mexico because I still remember a little bit when I lived over there, but I had lived here my whole life, so I didn't want to go back. And it was real challenging.
I second Carlos's sentiment about lots of either scammers or not very talented lawyers kind of preying on immigrants who are trying to adjust their status. I fell victim to a lawyer like that. I think the very first time I tried readjusting my status, and I think the financial burden of the entire immigration process really makes you think that the system wasn't necessarily designed for ordinary people. It was designed for people that are very wealthy and well off and have, financial support through, I guess, family of their origin back home, which most immigrants don't. For example, when I came here on a student visa, the specifications of how I can exist as an international student were really strict. I wasn't allowed to work off campus, and I didn't qualify for any type of loan or aid with tuition. And my tuition was, because I was an international student, it was 4 times the amount of a resident student. And so you basically have to come from money to be able to afford to go to school here. And because you can't really work legally, you're not allowed to, and all on-campus jobs are reserved for financial student financial aid student body, I guess. And I think and another thing that Carlos mentioned, people assuming the worst about you and not giving you the benefit of the doubt. Every time you walk into an interview, they have a stack of papers, all of the papers you've ever filed, and they really, really want to vet and make sure that you are not, perpetuating some kind of an immigration fraud or scam. And they assume and question you as if you are a criminal. And I think, and that kind of takes a toll on you, makes you feel very unwelcome and fearful, and just being constantly afraid, making sure that you follow the law to a T, because any little misstep will end up deporting you. So, and I guess my last but not least thing that I find particularly difficult about being an immigrant is being really far away from my family, and being the only person here that from my family that and not being able to see them or share milestones with them. That would be it for me.
So I've been here for almost 13 years. And I came on student visa first, as I said earlier. And initial goal was not really immigrating. When I moved here, I thought that I was gonna just come here, go to university in like maybe 4 or 5 years, and then either go back home or somewhere to Europe. So initially, I was just dealing with student visa, but I guess the hardest you can say is at first was on the embassy, because even trying to get a student visa, it can be like challenging, and part of it, at least in my experience, my home country, is that you can be rejected, like almost everyone said, and the worst about it is that it's almost like no going back, and they never give you an exact reason why you're rejected, whether it was like you didn't prove enough financial backing or other reasons. Like I remember like a friend of mine that went before me, he showed me a list, like they gave him a list with like 30 plus reasons, and they said like one of these doesn't apply, one or several ones, and that's why you're rejected. And then literally, if you ask them back, can you explain me more, they can call security to get you out of there. So like even getting the student visa at first, it's like it's not easy. I got the visa, I came here, and first few years really more like focused on school and everything. And then when I decided to transition, or I decided to stay, it was like 4 or 5 years into it. That's where it became challenging again, because there was not like a clear path how I would stay here. There are like different paths that I could pursue, but like just leaving back home at 18, 19, and then, like living here for 4 or 5 years, it's like, I consider like I became an adult here, like a man, like I left basically like a teenager. So then it's like get used to the lifestyle and everything, and I decided to stay. So like the transition was pretty challenging, and there was a point, I believe, for like 4 years of that, or 5 years that I didn't go back home to visit my parents and my brother. And part of it was because there's not like a clear path where you can either go visit and come back or not. Like the way how the process is, you put in your papers in application, but like you might not get a response for like 6 months or 2 or 3 years, just like changing the status. And if I were to go back home, even though I finished like university here, I got the degree, it would maybe like they wouldn't even let me back in, and like they wouldn't give me a reason or anything. So I had to stay till like literally till I had my green card in my hand. That's where like I had the green card, and 2 days later I jumped on a plane to go see my family. But so I want to say like the transition was pretty challenging. Also, I didn't use a lawyer, so that can be for better or worse, I guess. But the transition was quite challenging, and like going just like almost like 5 years without seeing anyone from my family. That was something, quite an experience.
And in retrospect, just hearing these stories, I think maybe it was lucky that I couldn't find a lawyer, because maybe it wouldn't have been an honest person. And I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to find an honest immigration lawyer, because a lot of them tell you that they'll have all this experience on there, and they really don't, and they'll, maybe one of the attorneys there does, but when it comes down to filing all that paperwork, like I said, sometimes the you don't even know what of the lawyers writing down what you're telling them to write down. So he could write down something completely different, and then it get messed up, and then you have to. I think that's what happened to my mom on her resident card, that they flipped her names, because Hispanics, they have like 4 or 5 different names. They have like the first name, middle name, their maiden name, and then their married name, and it's all together. So somehow they flipped that, and the attorney, when he was filling the paperwork, so it took her like an extra 5 years or something like that. It was a crazy amount of time to redo the process. Just like the other gentleman said, once you change something in your application, you're lucky if you get it done within a year, because it's gonna take a long time for them to refile it and go through everything. It seems like they take a long time to process paperwork over there. Like they're not in a big hurry to process anything, you know.
The wheels of justice move slowly.
Oh yeah, yeah. There ain't no in no big hurry. I don't know if you remember that movie by Julia Roberts when she goes into the DMV to get the football player's ID card or driver's license or something, and the DMV is full of people, and here are all these DMV people drinking coffee and talking to each other. You know, it's like they got no worry in the world. They're still getting paid. They don't have a quota of how many applications they process or anything. They just take their sweet old time, you know, trying to find something wrong with one of them so they could just reject it, you know.
So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question, which is, do you find that people's attitude towards you changes when they find out that you are an immigrant?
I mean, me growing up in California, there's a lot of immigrants over there. I mean, over there, you don't even, like in my case, we're Hispanic, so you don't even have to know how to speak English to be able to go anywhere because everybody speaks English. You know, I've never really felt that, but I've had friends that have felt that in the past, but in my case, I didn't feel nothing like that.
Okay.
I can go ahead. So yes and no. My name gives it away a little bit, and then my accent totally gives it away. So it doesn't require a lot for people to know that I was not raised here, or I was not born here, not from this country. But I haven't seen like, I mean, I feel like they try to relate sometimes, depending what part of state or country you are in. Like, so they try to have a conversation occasionally, like interact with you and maybe like find out more. At least from what I remember, I mean, most of the time, you know, like there might be specific cases, but the attitude is, I mean, just like they're just trying to figure out like why or how come or anything like that, but like just like on simple conversation. But yeah, to me, it's like, I mean, it's almost like second or third question I get asked is like, where are you from? Like I said, like my accent just gives it, like the moment I like salute someone or like we start a conversation, it's like it no matter, like I know that that question is gonna come up. Like it's happened like hundreds of times, maybe more than that, like over the years. So like now like it's in my head, like I know it's gonna become like immediate. So like their attitude, whether being nicer or meaner, not really, but I just like more out of curiosity that they ask. But like it's almost like whatever I'm doing, whether I'm like somewhere like in the car getting serviced or somewhere at work, it's just gonna change like the conversation kind of almost immediately. It's gonna open the topic of like where I'm from or where I came from and things like that.
I got something else. I think I got more of a little bit of a different response when people actually, when I barely moved here, because I moved here like 12 years ago. So I had moved here from California. So after a while, I just stopped telling people I moved here from California because I felt like it was a little bit more worse than them knowing that I came from. They didn't care if I came from Mexico, but it seemed like it was a little bit different. Me telling them that I moved from California over here. So after I kind of felt that, I just stopped telling people I moved here from California. You know, but it's hard when you move to different places because different places, I mean, it's a different culture. Even when you move around the United States, it's like every region has its own thing, the way they do things or the way they talk or even the food they eat. So it's that was a little bit more challenging for me, that move from California over here. But I was able to adapt because I mean, when you move somewhere else, you're kind of like you're moving into somebody else's home that they've been there for a long time. So you kind of gotta adapt to what's going on there. You know, you can't bring all. I mean, you still have to have pride and respect on where you come from, but you can't come somewhere else and try to change the way people are already living there. You know, you gotta kind of go into the flow and things like that.
Cannot agree more with the last statement. I mean, it's there's simple things, but really like the best and the easiest path is just to like adopting locally whatever is happening, because there's a reason people do things that way or they're there, and most probably it's going to be hundreds of thousands of them they do it certain way. So it's like you coming from somewhere else, it's not going to really change it. And just like on myself, like I'd make it a lot easier just to like be open of understanding it, or like how they do it here, like let's say in the region of Central Texas, Austin, you know, certain things. Because if you're to focus on like, and it's very different, like the life from how I grew up and when I came, it's like anything you can think of is different. But it's just like I cannot explain to people 18 years of my life that live there how everything is different here, because if you don't go there, it's kind of hard to understand. But like to make it easier on ourselves, it goes a long way, like if we just try to adapt as much as we can.
Believe it or not, I feel like in the United States, people's attitudes when when I tell someone I'm immigrating from Canada, they go, "Oh, you have to immigrate from Canada? Like, can't you just come here?" But growing up in Canada, it was very, very like, I didn't even get it on the second or third question. It was always like, Noosa, oh, where are you from? And then I'd say, oh, I'm from Peterborough, and they go, no, where are you really from? And I was 2 months old when we came to Canada, so for me, I basically it was like I was born there, but I wasn't. This dog really likes me. This is Barbara Ann, by the way. She's come on tour with me. She's crossed the border with me multiple times. And I actually really appreciate, even though I know there are so many really, really difficult hurdles for immigration here, and Canada has a reputation for being a little more looser and inviting immigration. I feel like the attitudes towards people are a lot more open-minded in the United States, and compared to my experience growing up in Canada, it's a very like, why don't you go back home kind of thing. That's just been my experience as an Arab Canadian.
I was lucky enough that I think lucky enough that I was able to find a group of friends and family members here quickly enough to the point where, you know, they would ask me, you know, how things were done, you know, in my home country, and approached it with curiosity, sincere curiosity. And I felt like we were able to achieve that, you know, cultural exchange where they were teaching me and helping me adapt better. But when, the year that I immigrated here, Borat had come out, and when people would find out that I was from Uzbekistan, they would, you know, just ask me if that's how things if that's how things are really in those Central Asian countries. And most of, you know, my, you know, meeting people, I would have to really disprove all of the things that Borat had done, you know, to kind of paint those regions a certain way. But I would agree with Nusa that it's, you know, also possible that I don't hold as many marginalized identities to be on the receiving end of, you know, so much discrimination. But I feel like for the most part, people have been incredibly inviting and kind and warm-hearted.
Okay. So the next question is, how do you feel about the current political climate of the country as a person who is either immigrating or has immigrated. So as an immigrant. That's a doozy, right? That's a hard, I feel like that's, especially today, it's like inauguration day.
Can you repeat that question one more time?
Yes, I can. It is, how do you feel about the current political climate of the country as someone who is an immigrant? The current political climate.
To say the least, can be discouraging, and part of it is because how I grew up or how I saw United States from outside. It's like kind of the top of the list, you know, for everything. So like what's going on, it just seems like, you know, kind of got a big hit. Like we're like had like high hopes, you know, like we're almost like, we know by no means it's not a perfect country. It has its issues, but like it's a lot better than most of the countries out there overall. And I thought it was kind of like setting the bar. And like since when I came in here, it's almost like, I don't know how we got to this point, but it seems like it's gone backwards. Maybe somewhat social media had some hand in that. So it's like, can be a little disappointed at first. I mean, don't get me wrong, I feel like it's still a lot better than a lot of other countries there, but just like trying to have the highest standard, you know, like highest hope for United States, not like trying to think in just like another country, because if it's just another country, like it wouldn't be that special anymore.
I do have an opinion on this actually, because as I've been recently going through the immigration process, the rules change so frequently that it's just hard to keep up. And I think even just today or tomorrow, there's another overhaul of rules. And actually, like I'd done like I made the like brief this big and was about to mail it in, and then I had to change about this much of it. The day I went to mail it in, I double checked the website, and everything had changed. So it's, I think the state of the immigration rules are in flux. Is what
Growing up in another country, I was truly and deeply ignorant of kind of the history and origin of this country, and you know, I didn't really know the kind of the nuanced like understanding of what had happened to the indigenous nations here in America and how they were dispossessed of their land, and you know, the process of, you know, horrendous enslavement and kind of the years that, you know, those laws got repealed but then kind of readapted. And I think that at first it felt like, you know, this was in the past, but then kind of tuning into what was happening in the news and, you know, really listening to the experiences of Black and brown people and people of color, I realized that those practices weren't necessarily in such distant past. You know, just these things, these ways of discrimination had adapted. And I feel like, you know, at first it was really easy to just kind of distance myself from what was happening in the country, feeling absolutely impotent to do anything about it. And also there's this, you know, kind of misguided thinking that, you know, when you are a person with some type of marginalized identity, whether you're an immigrant or you live with disability or you're a person of color, that, you know, everyone has their own problems and everyone has to kind of fight to get ahead for their own sake and well-being. And, you know, and I feel like this has really, what has happened in the last few years in this country has truly, you know, taught me to create cohorts and allyships with other people that whose experiences are nothing like mine, because it truly feels like, you know, when the most marginalized people in this country are free, then we will all be free. And so yeah, I feel like these last few years have been truly heartbreaking, but also there's been, you know, sort of awakening and reckoning with the past injustices in America. And I'm really proud to be part of it, participating in it.
Yeah, we are definitely living some crazy times right now. I mean, I've never thought that I would see stuff like this go on, where people are burning things down, or, racists are going. I mean, I've always seen like from back home, not here that as much, but from back home, it was always race wars, but nobody ever really cared, and nobody ever put it out on the news because it wasn't affecting anybody but those communities. you know um there was a lot of there always been a lot of black on black, brown on brown, Asians against Asians, and in San Jose in California, I mean, that used to be one of the safest cities in the United States. It's one of the biggest cities, and by the time I moved out, I mean, there was murders all the time and drive-by shootings, and I mean, they just, it completely got out of hand. So it's kind of nice now that I mean, it's not good that it's happening, but it's getting more awareness of this. This has been going on for a very, very long time, and no one has ever really done nothing about it. Because they're people that have immigrated here, so nobody cares about what's going on in the neighborhoods. They And now it seemed like these past couple years it's been getting a lot more attention. So to me, that's a good thing, because maybe there could be a change. And us as people, we just need to unite and forget about the races, forget about different political parties, and just be human beings, and look out for each other. I mean, when uh when people immigrate, there's always people here to help you. You always run into good people. So it's like it's nice that a lot of that is getting put out there, so our communities could get some help, and be able to prosper and live that American dream that we all came here to live.
I'd like to add one more thing. I think also what has happened, kind of the political climate really encouraged me to own my citizenship, and not take it lightly. I was truly surprised when I read the statistics of how few immigrants that have citizenships actually vote in this country. And and that felt like a true difference between living in America versus in any other country. I felt like as a citizen, I had a long list of civil rights, and I used it to call my local representatives and demand justice and hold them accountable. And I've been really surprised, especially in in the during this past election cycle, how many people decided to vote and educate themselves on their local elections, not just the big presidential elections.
I'm just taking some notes, so as we have conversations, I'm just trying to add a few things. So I think one issue is like when we first arrive, we're so much focused either what we came for or trying to go through the burden of the citizenship or green card, just the immigration. So it's almost like takes us a few years to get involved more locally. I mean, I know myself, when I got the green card, I got more focused on certain things, and then when I got the citizenship, it's kind of whole different level, including with voting, which I would miss one, whether it's local voting or for president, but even local. But I feel like when we first come in, depending where you arrive and the community you're settled, just because it's almost like we have another battle to start with. We never know if next year or next 3 years we'll still be here. So it's kind of till we clear citizenship or immigration status, it's almost like we're very limited, like especially at least that's how I felt in my mind, because like you don't have the clarity. I mean, you can talk about the country or the politics or everything, but like it's kind of like in the back end, if you're not here like 3 years later, you cannot vote. It's kind of, how does it help? And I know that for whoever became citizen, I mean, that's just like on a whole different level of like, I mean, having like peace of mind, and you can get more involved and so many things you can do after that. Like you can really like embrace or like live like American life or American dream.
Okay, so let's see. The next question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
The next question is, have you ever felt unsafe, afraid, or experienced any sort of violence in this country due to being an immigrant? And this can be something that you've experienced, or even something that maybe you've seen someone else experience. It doesn't have to be necessarily you. It can be, just what your experience is in general.
Not in this country, not yet. Again, maybe just because I spent longer in Canada, but all of my questionable experiences of racism have been in rural Canada, where I've chose to build a career. that is a big reason why I am here, is because it Canadians think that like Texas is scary and the USA is scary. It's very strange thinking, but I actually feel really safe here. And other than what Carlos was talking about with you know, the difficulties in actually trying to immigrate and being questioned and finding fault in every little thing that you do going through the process because you're being vetted. But as a society, I think like it's really easy to avoid people who you think might be aggressive towards you, if you know what I mean. Like in the United States, I find that people will plaster their beliefs all over their trucks, and there's flags on their front lawns, and it's very easy to know, like, okay, those people may not be interested in being my friend. But at the same time, whenever I start to sing country music, they forget all about it. And that's kind of why I could have been, I could have had a real job, but what I really like about my weird chosen profession and my decision to try and live here is that actually I think um, because immigration issues are reported on, and it's like something that people are aware of, there is a tolerance in society. Like no one, I feel like the society around me would be protective rather than aggressive.
There was a period of time that when I was trying to readjust my status, there's a little kind of caveat in me coming here on a scholarship. It was that I would go home for at least 2 years before deciding to become naturalized in this country. So, didn't matter whether, I was married to an American citizen, I couldn't apply for any type of green card or citizenship. And there was a time where I was really afraid of being separated from my American-born daughter and my husband, because they couldn't come with me and stay there for more than 21 days, and I couldn't stay here. So, which, kind of took us down a path of filing for an asylum. But I also know that there are a lot of, undocumented immigrants who are often vulnerable to abuse at work. They are overworked and underpaid, and and if they don't really have avenues to complain and file any type of complaint about it. And I also know that undocumented immigrants who are vulnerable to domestic abuse also can't go to the authorities because they are afraid of being deported and being separated from their American-born children who wouldn't have a status in their, country of origin. And that's the reality for a lot of immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants.
That's a big fear. That would be a huge fear. As a mom, like when you were talking, I just thought, wow, okay, we're talking about being separated from our children, like that's pretty big. And that's even as a documented immigrant. So that times a lot, I think, would be what's going on with other folks.
So trying to make a point as what y'all referring, I feel like a lot of people forget or they cannot connect how many different experiences are there. I mean, like thousands of and even millions, where like basically everyone going through like different obstacles. Like it's not two are the same, like everyone depending on like age or gender or like how they arrived here, like so many things out there. So it's like, I mean, just trying to put us all in one blanket kind of thing that like, I know it's just kind of hard to hear, like, because how you're saying for a family separation, like I was lucky enough that I came young and I didn't have to go through all that. I mean, I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of other people that have had it like much worse or much fear. Going back to your question, I think for most part, I haven't felt like any fear other than like in beginning when me and a few friends that went around, like just at first when we came to college, we were like related as like international students and they were like all over. Like we had one from India, one from Azerbaijan, me from Albania, and a mixture. But I feel like it was a combination of us not being told, like whether from embassy or when we arrived here, like even though like I arrived here legally, like it's almost I didn't know what to expect. I mean, like I got the visa, but then it's like you overhear stories like how people have had terrible experiences and you don't know if you're even in the same category, but it's like you kind of have to be afraid of anything. And I think the first 2-3 years it required quite gathering some information just to be like clear, like what applied to me and what didn't apply, what can I do to make my case better or not. But I mean, like physical safety, I don't think I've ever been like felt like threatened or anything. I mean, there is fears and most of it, like we said, it's like the fear of deportation until you reach a point whether like legal working status or green card or citizenship, after that, not really, but up to then it's just like, I would say like the most fear that people might have is just like fear of being deported. And like, if you're with a family here with like, with your spouse or with the kids, then it's like whole different level, like adding their immigration status where like, I mean, just like separating the family can be like too many things going on and it's almost like you got no way out. But like, yeah, I mean, just like that's my main thing, like just putting it like all of us kind of have the same experience. And the whole immigration process, especially how it's put out there, like on the media, whether TV or social media, it's like super complex. Like millions of people apply, a few thousands get the visas or citizenship and everything, but almost every case is different. I mean, like there are like same generic questions for most of us, but it's like it can be like very like hard in a way. But like just putting us all kind of like it's the same thing. It's just like it's so many different things happening at the same time with each person.
Could you repeat the question again, Kelly? Because from listening to their stories, I kind of
Okay.
yeah.
Have you ever felt unsafe, afraid, or experienced violence in this country due to being an immigrant, like specifically related to being an immigrant?
No, I don't think I have. I think It's kind of sad. I don't think I've had experience in this country, but I have in my own country. You know, like even uh being born over there and being from over there, I've experienced like even like from law enforcement and stuff like that, like some type of racism or something that they have against us that we live here in the United States now, you know. So it it makes you kind of feel unsafe, I guess, to go to my country of origin. You know, I remember like I haven't gone there in a while, but I used to go there a lot, and I remember every time I was crossing the bridge to this side and I was on U.S. soil, I was always like relieved. You know, I was always like, I made it. I'm home. You know, so people here have always made me feel at home. I've never really felt nothing like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That I mean, I think we had talked about that some, the challenges of what's going on in central Mexico. So you feel a lot safer being here.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a lot safer. Even here, like have I kind of faced a little bit more racism from my own people, like because like for me it's hard because I'm not from here and I'm not from Mexico. You know, I'm like split in the middle. Like if I go over there, it's like they look at you different. If you go here to a job site or anything like that, and you working with people that have lived their whole life in Mexico and have immigrated here and all they speak is Spanish or something like that, they kind of don't treat you the same. You know, it's like they treat you a little bit different. So that's always been confusing and hard to me, like to understand. You know, like I'm not from here and I'm not from there. Like where am I from? You know, so
Yeah, because how old were you? You said you were 5.
I was like 5 when I came over here. Yeah, 5 years old.
Yeah. So this next question, it says it's a direct question for Savara. Which administration granted your citizenship?
Uh, I actually applied to for my citizenship because they said that it would take about 7 or 8 months to get your paperwork in order. So I applied for my citizenship the last year of Obama's second term. But I didn't get interviewed until Trump was president. And I didn't get sworn in until I think a few months into his presidency. And, you know, it's actually for those who have gone through the experience, it's a really beautiful experience. And my entire family came, my family here came and you know, each person gets a folder with you know, welcome letters and you know, all of these things to make you feel really proud to be an American. And you stand up and you say an oath in this big stadium with thousands of other people, and you know, you become an American in that moment. But it was really saddening because historically, you get a welcome letter from a sitting president welcoming you into the country and into the citizenship. And none of us that day got a welcome letter from our president. That felt kind of like we were snubbed. But it would have been nice to have it and signed by a president and framed, but it's all good. So to answer your question, I started the paperwork during Obama's administration, but didn't become a citizen until Trump's administration.
Got it.
Can I add something to kind of overall? So I feel like as the question is directed, I mean, it was to her, but I feel like maybe they're just trying to get a feeling if one administration is a little more lenient, more open to it or no. I feel like the process is a little more kind of, I guess you can say maybe bureaucracy, but the process, it's like one president cannot change it overnight or that easy. So like, even if, let's say Trump was kind of, from what we hear, somewhat anti-immigrant or was trying to make it harder, that doesn't necessarily mean that he could do it overnight. Like there's a process to it, and part of it is like Congress and everything. So, because I went through my whole process during his presidency and I didn't have any obstacles in there, but it's not because the administration was trying to make it easier, harder. It was a process that it's kind of like established in a way, like years and years in the making. So like one administration can make it harder or easier, but also it takes like years for those things to go into effect. I mean, like from the president and whoever is like his secretary, and then like change the law if they can have to do anything with the Congress, and then keep going all the way down the list, you know, with like USCIS or anything. So I feel like it kind of helps the administration, but not as much as people might think, or it doesn't hurt as much as might think in a way.
It's true that the process itself, like the paperwork that you have to file, is largely bipartisan, or apartisan. I don't know which term to use. But I do want to note that, you know, there are certain things that happened in the last presidency that made immigration a lot harder, like the entire Muslim ban, you know, from certain countries.
I was
That,
actually going to jump in with
you
that.
know, so that was definitely affected by a sitting president. And also they rolled back years and years of established asylum and refugee status laws that basically helped women that were fleeing violence. They rolled those laws back. I know because, you know, one of the most incredible organizations called Tahrir Justice Center helps women who are fleeing persecution of some sort and coming into this country, and this organization assigns a lawyer to them and they help them basically through the entire process pro bono. And they were just disheartened about how many laws that protected their clients were rolled back during the last 4 years.
I
And
remember
on
when,
a less serious note, it was the stuff that I was talking about that kept changing. It was stuff that was in the courts, and it would just depend on a decision of a court in different states, and it would apply to all of the applications. So, for example, the Trump administration did introduce extra extra hurdles that were never involved in a green card application before, just like proving that you've never had any social benefits, providing your credit score. Just it's like little things, but they had never been there before, and they were specifically introduced to discourage immigration, and also the fees increased astronomically. Also, I have a friend who's from Italy, like working at a university somewhere in, I don't know, Idaho or something like that, and she she was telling me that the rules kept changing just in the last year, and something about like the minimum wages went up so much that the employers couldn't continue to hire people from out of the country. So it's like one of those double-sided kind of um, strategies where it sounds like it's a good thing because the minimum wage is going up, but it goes up by so much that the employers then don't have the choice to hire someone that might immigrate. So then they um, have to hire someone from.
Uh, I think what she might be referring, I might be wrong on this, is like for certain jobs or like for certain visas, like
Yeah.
employee sponsor based and stuff like that. I think they raised it where you have to make so much money, just throwing random numbers, but it's like the company has to pay for someone like that makes at least like 150,000 a year. And that kind of the company like doesn't need someone that makes 150,000. They need someone that does the job, but like gets paid like 70,000 a year. So by making that, like it makes it where like companies are not looking in a lot of places or how they used to before. I mean, it's like they need people, but just changing that, like where before, like it was like income based, but you know, like Now the company cannot hire someone for a position that it's worth 70K, and they have to pay them like 150 just
Yeah,
because the
exactly.
administration
So
said
it
that. So it's
creates
kind of limits. Like, I mean, Sevara was saying, I think, I guess maybe my case was kind of like simpler in a way, but I guess there was a lot of things that they did along the way, like smaller things that just like adds up in there. And if you are like kind of getting started on the process or you're not far in the process, it just like makes it like a lot longer. One thing I guess that happened during the last administration, I guess before today, is that it, at least from my understanding, whether it was unintentional or intentional, it's like how there is a lack of staffing for immigration department, whatever, and part that's how it like slowed down. So like maybe some of the rules were to slow it down, but then another one was like if before you put in the application, it took you like 3 to 6 months, but they were like staffed like normally, but now like you have like 1/3 of the staff. So what's going to happen obviously is going to be longer lines and wait because you don't have enough people to work all the cases. So all of a sudden, if you before you're waiting 6 months, now you're waiting like a year or 2 years or 3 years, and then just kind of adds up. And then depending if you have like due dates or anything where your status or your case has to be like within like certain like time frame, that just can make it a lot harder because you had like a year here, a year there for the smallest things, and it's like before you realize like 5 years later you're still working on the same thing or you haven't made much progress.
Yeah. And to those that you may not know what we're referring to, when you are applying to come here from another country, you typically, unless you basically need a sponsor, you need someone to basically provide financial statements to show that they make enough money that they would be willing to support you. And because the U.S. government doesn't want you to be a burden on the social programs here. And with jobs, especially when you're applying for an H-1B1 or work visa, they want your employer to pay you a certain amount of money to make sure that you won't need SNAP benefits or TANF benefits, and you won't need Medicaid. But those jobs are really hard to come by, where they pay you so much that it looks really good on paper. And not only that, but then that usually people with just incredibly specialized type of training and education can get those jobs at some research, or like a specific type of IT can get those really high paying jobs and qualify for those types of visas.
Okay. Sorry, my notifications on my Mac keep like dinging, and so I was just turning them off. I'm like, okay, this has got to stop. Apparently, I'm very popular right now. No. Okay, so let's see. Oh, yeah, I knew this was the next question. Did Carlos, did you get to answer that one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, this is a pretty short question. Did you ever regret your decision to immigrate? And if yes, why? And if no, why?
Well, in my case, like I didn't really have a choice. I didn't know where I was going. I was being taken somewhere by my parents where they thought it would be a better opportunity for me, which I'm glad they did, because the place where I come from in Mexico, I mean, you still got dirt roads, real low. You got like seasonal agriculture. You can't grow crops like all year long. Most people that live there nowadays, the only way they survive is because they got family members here in the US sending money back. Otherwise there wouldn't really be a way to survive over there. Because even like the with the I guess you could say how the weather changes or stuff like that, they haven't really had too much rain over there, so you really can't grow that much of your own food anymore. And they only give you water like 2 or 3 times a week for your own house. So you have to have a way of storing it and then using it for the days that they don't have over here. So I'm really grateful that my parents brought me over here, and I was able to grow up here, you know, and live in this beautiful country.
I love it here. I don't want to go home. I really hope it works out.
I hope it works out for you too, and I'm sure it will, Nisa. I think the only time I tend to regret, or not necessarily regret, but second guess my decision to immigrate is when when I can't be there for my family's milestones, or when, an aging grandparent, needs you and you can't really be there with your family. And, if there's any type of emergency, you can't just jump on the plane and, travel for 30 hours to be there. I personally can't go back. My citizenship, the way I got my citizenship, prohibits me from going back ever. So I think that's the only time I've ever regretted. But other than that, I feel genuinely proud and excited, and so lucky to be an American and raise my two daughters in such a progressive country.
Short answer is no, I don't regret it, and I love it, and I'm thankful that I'm here. Initially, I might have mentioned, I didn't start this immigrant process. I was gonna come here, student visa, get a university degree, and go back home. It just happened that, like I said, I became an adult. Like, I got used to the lifestyle, and then you start realizing things that you love or you like, and it's like you get used to it. So what Carlos was mentioning, just in case, because might not understand most people, like the water issue, it's like same thing in my country. It's like we don't have running water, or most of it. So it's like you have a time a day that the water like kind of comes to your place. So you have like 2 or 3 times, maybe like 30 minutes a day, where you have to like wash all the dishes and like get the extra water, store or whatever you got to do, and then for the rest of the day there is no running water. So sometimes, like, because we're focused on like the big things and what we would like for the country to give or whatever we give, but we forget the very small basic things that like make this country like a lot better. And that's why like it's in a different level, like how good it's in here. I mean, again, it's not perfect, but I mean the life and everything that we have here, like I don't think it would be anywhere else. It just, I mean, if you think about it, like, I mean, it's just like, I mean, myself personally, like, I mean, I can say like, it's been a great experience and I love being here. And no, I don't ever think of regretting it or like being back or going back. I mean, maybe I'd love to go visit or like live in other places like temporarily, but anytime I visit, even if it's like 2 or 3 weeks, and this is not only Albania, but whether other parts of Europe or other parts of Americas, but like that's when you realize like how good we have it here, like how many things, like it's like way ahead of other countries.
It's so interesting to listen to you guys and have this conversation as a, from my perspective as a 5th generation Texan. My daughter's a 6th generation Texan, and sometimes I get super frustrated and discouraged by my own country. I'm like, oh, we're not progressive enough. We're not doing enough. And this is so disappointing. And, why aren't we doing more? And, and sometimes I guess I just need to kind of look at it too and say, okay, we are a work in progress, and no, we're not great. So like you almost have to look at this country like a human being, like you would look at a person. Um, people have their flaws, right? Nobody's perfect, but we all constantly strive for that betterment, hopefully, some, not all people, some people are like, I'm good here, but the idea, hopefully for most people, is that they're kind of in that process of striving not for perfection, just for little small gradations of better and better. Um, I really appreciate all of you coming and spending this time with us tonight. And I really liked what Artie said earlier about, there are as many immigration stories as there are immigrants, really, and everybody has a different path. And it's fascinating, and it's very interesting to listen to all of you. I feel like all of you could have your own 2-hour panel, like, and we could talk, and have questions and get answers. Let's see. They're saying, if you feel like people are up for one more question, what do you guys think? One more, or do you?
Yeah, that's
One
I'm
fine.
more.
okay
All
with
right.
it.
I'm okay with it. There are the people who have come to join, some of them might drop off, but I think it's a great question. I'm looking at it. So it says, do you believe that Americans have a preconceived notion of who an immigrant is and what their capabilities are?
I
So
don't think. Oh, sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I don't think that they do. Because once you come here and you kind of get going to like, let's say, even like a job site, if you're able to do the same thing the other person does, it's okay with them. If you're do I don't really think that it's a misconception.
When I met someone about a month ago and explained that the rules about why I couldn't work waiting for the green card, and their response was like, "Oh, you're just lazy." And I
Oh
was
wow.
like, "Wow, okay, thank you for that." Like, so you just don't want to work? I'm like, okay, no, I just really don't want to get deported for doing something I'm not allowed to do. So whatever. So those kinds of attitudes can slip in, and it's really interesting to just keep your eyes open for it. But
Look for those
not
bumper
not
stickers.
everyone. I missed that, Kelly. What?
I said, look
L-
for those bumper stickers.
Yeah.
I
Artie, were you?
think that it's
Sorry.
so. Oh, go ahead, Artie. You were
I'll
trying.
go last.
Okay. I don't know if it's, I don't think that this idea of kind of that preconceived idea of what an immigrant looks like is, is unique to Americans. I feel like anytime people, people form ideas and put people and things in boxes and like to categorize, and that's how our brain operates. And I think that a lot of people, do tend to think of immigrants either, as people with really tragic, traumatic stories that come at a great personal loss and sacrifice. And for a lot of immigrants, that's true. But also not all. And some people just want to live here, and I think another idea that people tend to cling to is that immigrants are very hardworking and, industrious, and I feel like a lot of immigrants that I've met are very hardworking, and not because they are by nature, but because they have to. But I wouldn't necessarily put myself as like, in the ranks of really hardworking immigrants. I tend to have my lazy moments. But yeah, but I think that, that's kind of what really helps. I guess, just having conversations and forming deep friendships where people get to know your story and you theirs really, breaks down stereotypes, and people no longer live as stereotypes, but as humans with multidimensional aspects to them. And I'm really grateful that my time here, I've been blessed with so many genuinely interested and warm people that have gotten to know me or wanted to get to know me and opened up their homes and hearts to me.
Before I let Artie speak,
Uh,
I just want to point out that it's so funny sometimes to me that you can hold such opposite stereotypes about what an immigrant is. Like they can be simultaneously lazy and extremely hardworking. It doesn't often make sense to me. That's come up in Canada a bunch, not yet down here, but I just wanted to stick my head in. And sorry, Artie, it's your turn to speak.
No, that's fine. I mean, really just going back to it, like, I mean, I guess it's just human nature trying to like categorize us or like put us in a way. So like personally, like the most that I've gotten the comments is being kind of more like on the hardworking side. And I guess being a capitalist country, like that's really like appreciated. And what we hear a lot of times is just like, I mean, immigrants come, like we come from different country background and like work hard, which going back in my country, what we're doing here, maybe it's like easy work, you know, like while here it's considered hard work. So it's just like different standards. But yeah, I mean, personally, I haven't felt much like into like category or put like, I mean, the comment that I can think most like that I've gotten, it's like more like hard working for being an immigrant, like just how hard working we are or something like that. But that's like the biggest that I've gotten.
Hi, Marissa.
Hi, I'm like the indicator that we're coming close to the end. Gosh, thank you guys so much. I don't think most people understand that there's so many different forms and ways to immigrate, and each one has its own timeline and challenges. But I did put in the chat that the standard application is the fee is $1,140 to apply. And that's what I wanted folks to understand. That's to apply. That doesn't mean you get the green card. And on top of that, there's an $85 biometric fee.
Well, you pay that, you pay certain fees each time you readjust your status.
Exactly. So folks don't understand that that's the first step. Like when you send in, and Al and I are extremely familiar with it because Al had to go through the immigration process. And I have a binder that sits in the closet because I'm too afraid to throw away all the paperwork. And it was literally when we got all done, we started in 2012 and Al got his citizenship in 2017, which is considered pretty fast, but it was because we were married and I'm an American citizen. His file is over 6 pounds of paper. So it's a long process. So I did put some things in there. I'm going to let our attendees know that I'm going to start a poll. Please, if you've made it this far, if you could answer the questions that pop up on your screen. They're just 3 little questions and you should be able to answer them quickly. And the other thing I'm going to remind some folks, well, first I'm going to tell our panelists, thank you so much for your time. You guys are each going to get a t-shirt and either Kelly or I will be following up with you to get what sizes you went.
Yeah, I forgot about that. They get the
yeah,
t-shirt too.
You guys get the t-shirt. If anybody watching would like the t-shirt for only $10 donation to SEGCC, you can have your very own Why Can't We Be Friends t-shirt as well. Thank you to everybody for filling out the poll if you do, and there will be a follow-up survey that will go out to some folks. I just want to say thank you guys so much for sharing your stories, and there were some things that were like really familiar as Al and I went through the process, and there were some things that was like, Savara, I mean, I had a friend who was from South Africa who went through the same fear of being separated from her kid. And so, yeah, these things are all real and we kind of take for granted. American citizens who were born here kind of take that for granted. So thank you so much. Thank you, Kelly, for being a wonderful moderator.
Always. This is my first time, you guys. It was a lot of fun for me. So, and I had shared with some of our panelists the reason why I was moderating, which was that our dear friend Chuck had been ill. And I would just like to say he's on the mend, which I think
Yeah.
is really, really excellent news. We were all really concerned. So I'm happy to report that he is getting better.
He's doing better. That's right. So
Is he home?
I don't think quite yet, but it's like I think Irma's chomping at the bit.
We think maybe by this weekend.
Yes.
He should be home this week. So for sure. So
Yeah.
thank you for all the attendees, for everyone who attended. We really appreciate it. And all I can say is thank you guys so much. And, for sharing your story. And being here.
come to other discussions.
Yeah.
Keep in touch. And
what's next? And next month, the topic is.
was it Latina? Was it, no, wait, was it Black women?
It is Black women, because we had
Awesome.
the very first one was
Ask a Black dude.
That was Chuck's. And so I said, Chuck, we got to do the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
He's like, I know.
So important. Yeah.
So in alignment with Black History Month, it will be on Black women.
Awesome. How do we find out about these panels?
Well, we've got your emails. If you'd like us to, we can send you information on it, or
Yeah.
kind of automatically register you guys.
That would be
Yeah, that
awesome.
would be good.
Yeah, and anytime, and you guys can forward those emails to anyone that you think would be interested.
Yeah.
Like these are,
Cool.
So when you get the email, you can pass that around to anybody who you think would be interested in engaging in these kinds of conversations. So we're pretty new. We're a pretty new little organization, and we really want to get a lot of topics out there. So also we're open to suggestions. So that's always a thing. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I think it's 8:25. And thank you to all of the participants that showed up to hang out. Thanks for answering the questions. Thanks for buying a t-shirt. And we'll see you guys soon.
All right.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us.
you,
All right. Thank you
everyone.
for having us.
Have a great evening. Happy Inauguration Day.
Yay!
I know.
Bye, everybody.
Whoops,
Bye.
sorry.